Hello, this is The Trends, Neil Atkinson with Josh Williams. This is a show that we do behind the paywall on the Anfield Wrap every single week, but we wanted to bring it this side this week, and we are in association with NordVPN. All the stats in this come from StatsBomb. We're very, very pleased to partner with them as well, and have been for a long period of time now. They've been a long-term support to the Anfield Wrap, so huge thanks to them and to NordVPN, more of which in a minute or two. But we're going to start off. I've got Josh here. You went viral a bit, I thought, the weekend. How's it feel? Do you enjoy it?
I'm used to it now, mate.
Oh, you just go viral all the time, don't you? Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Every week.
You went viral because you praised last summer's transfer business to the skies. You said it could be last season's transfer window, last summer's transfer window could be an all-timer. Expand.
Well, I was really impressed with the midfield in the game against Ipswich Town. Just sweeping everything up, hoovering everything up, but creating, dictating the play and everything. 3 players, you could do it all really, but all signed in the same window, which you don't usually see. So I give them a nod. But to be fair, a lot of the viral, usually it goes viral for the wrong reasons, doesn't it? But in this case, no, most people were in agreement, thought it was great business. A lot of people crediting George Schmadtke. A lot of people saying, why didn't you include Endo in this? But generally all good vibes, and it's nice when you've got a midfield department that can do everything, yeah? Well,
that's but I think the thing about them as well, which is absolutely fascinating. First slide you'll get here is the average age, the graph of the average age over the course of the season. StatsBomb always takes the year that they're going to become as the season wears on. So currently they've got McAllister down at 26, and you've got Jones and Szoboszlai down at 24, Gravenberch down at 23, and Elliott down at 22. I include Elliott and Jones just to sort of make the point that, you know, there's 5 players there who could. We'll see in the long run whether or not it works, but there's 5 players there who could form a bedrock of Liverpool's midfield. 26 is the oldest. Yes, he is a World Cup winner, but 26 is the oldest. To me, that's one of the most impressive things about this, and I think one of the things that you're seeing at the minute with Szoboszlai is just that thing that sometimes happens with players when they move into the prime. Everything just makes a bit more sense, everything comes a bit easier, and I think that's what we saw at the weekend.
Well, the beauty of Firmino, Salah and Mane was they were literally all the same age. So they matured and peaked together. So we saw the best of Salah, the best of Mane, the best of Bobby, all on the pitch at the same time, all fit every week. And you're getting shades of that now with the midfield a little bit, where they're all growing together. None of them, I think, say for example, Bruno Fernandes at Man United versus Kobbie Mainoo. Yeah. Kobbie Mainoo's going to peak, Fernandes is going to go over the hill. So you've got a bit of a problem there really when it comes to your recruitment. So Liverpool are getting that nice where they're, you know, for the next a good few years now, we're going to experience the peak years, hopefully, of these really top midfielders.
Who are you crediting?
I am crediting probably Klopp and Linders when it comes to the recruitment for this. I think Schmadtke was just a deals guy, weren't he? I don't think he was involved in talent ID and things like that. But funny enough, I was speaking to Beasley about this, Andrew Beasley, saying, like, say for example, Gravenberch. Klopp signs Gravenberch. I think Klopp and Linders also signed Gakpo, for example, right? With those 2 players, good players now, and when they were signed, they were good players. But it's the original reason they were signed, you could argue, is not the reason why they're now doing well, if you get what I mean. Gravenberch now is a 6.
It's been the way football's ever been.
Gakpo
players
playing
move
on
around,
the
move positions. I just think what I think is really interesting.
Who deserves credit though in that sense is what I think is interesting.
But what I think is interesting though is that also, I think because there's a couple of big headline names, to inverted commas, at Liverpool who've moved on, come back, moved on. You forget that a lot of the staff who were just there week in, week out will still be there. You know, a lot of the people who were responsible for identifying talent will just simply still be the same people.
Yeah.
Same scouts, same data guys, you know, they won't necessarily, they're not the names that fall off the tongue, but for instance in your book, you know, Dave Fallows comes up in your book, for instance, he gets a mention in there and he's been there throughout this period. So I think it's important. I think at times to remember there's good people working in the shadows, if you see what I mean, and they don't always get the headlines, but when good work could be done, hopefully, in the future under Richard Hughes, well, it might well still be those people, but it'll be Richard Hughes who gets the credit. Similarly, but you know what I mean? And I think this is the nature of football clubs, is what I mean. We don't get to see everything and we don't get to know everything. That's why I asked you the question slightly mischievously, because it might be that it's no one, really. No, we know it could just be no one whose name is sort of readily bandied about.
Yeah, to be fair, when I say Klopp and Linders, I am always generally of the belief that it's a structural thing, it's an organisation thing, yeah.
But the structure's in good place, and I think that's the thing that's worth pointing out. The flip, and this, the big thing for me about this is that this is one of those ways in which Liverpool are structurally in a good place. It doesn't take long for these things to go wrong, and that's why you've got to maintain them all the way through. But the idea, as I say, that Liverpool could have this midfield bedrock there of 5 names, and if Liverpool are looking to recruit a midfielder in the summer, which I think they should be, whatever area of midfield they decide to move it into, I would expect it to be someone who's under 26 as well. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. So you're going to end up possibly with Liverpool next season running with 6 centre midfielders, all of who, and then Leone underneath, all of whom you'd like to think are either of peak age or are about to move into it.
Yeah, but I think a lesson arguably with Gakpo and with Gravenberch, for example, as players who've thrived under a new manager, they always had the talent there. So I think the bottom line is, when it comes to your recruitment, underline just you need to just sign good players.
Excellent.
Just that's the bottom line. Sign good players, mate. And that's why I think Liverpool don't move as much as other clubs, because they're so intense on, if you get it wrong, you've got a problem there for 2 or 3 years potentially that you can't shift, or maybe you miss out on another target or something like that. But the bottom line is signing good players, and I think when Liverpool recruited the likes of Endo, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, McAllister, maybe there wasn't like a general blueprint for this is how it's going to look. Bottom line is just getting loads of multifaceted, really good midfielders, and it's working now.
Are you working out later on? Move forward and talk about the Ipswich game here now. Match stats as a whole, you end up in a situation where, for me, what's really interesting about these is Liverpool possession 70-30, pass completion 89-77, total passes completed. Ipswich actually end up with a few more than I would have expected, but it's another example here where Liverpool have got more of the ball, are completing better passes, but they're about the same for the pressures they're putting in with their opponents, and Liverpool's pressure regains are stronger. They're winning approximately the same number of tackles as well. Liverpool worked hard, really hard, to make it look easy against Ipswich. That's my takeaway from the game.
Yeah. I think they were a well-drilled side. I don't think they mustered a shot though until the hour mark. Yep. I think we faced our first shot after an hour, which is just...
Well, there's the race chart, and you can see it right there. Bang on 60 is the first shot from an Ipswich point of view. They end up with 0.29 expected goals cumulatively over the course of the game. Liverpool only 1.22, which you want to come on to. But to your point, that's how long it takes before Ipswich get near Liverpool's goal.
Yeah, so you're getting that balance right of creation combined with keeping counter-attacks to a nil, basically. As you can see there, Liverpool getting it very right when it comes to the second half, especially climbing gradually when it comes to small, low-quality opportunities, maybe. But that's generally what you see anyway when you're facing any kind of low block. It'll be difficult to create a tap-in against that kind of defence that doesn't really move. There's
something to be said about Liverpool's scored the opening goal there. You can see it when it goes 1-0 on about 11-12 minutes. They find themselves, I think, Josh, where, one, the scoreboard's now in their favour, and then the second thing that's in their favour is they know that they're superior. I mean, the league table tells them they're superior, but then the way in which the game's going. And I think this is one of the things that leads to Liverpool's really quite deadly finishing over the course of the game. They end up with only 1.22 on the cumulative expected goals. You know, you would feel as though that was higher. StatsBomb had the Salah chance really low value. But I think part of the reason why Salah just does what he does in that instance is because it's almost like he's training, if you know what I mean. It's very much like something that you see a player do in a training drill or something like that, when he just whacks it into the back of the net above the goalkeeper from the narrow angle. He just sort of hits it so hard, and because there's a player in front of him and there's the keeper there, I think that's why StatsBomb doesn't think it's a particularly high value chance. But I think that there is something where Liverpool are just relaxed at that point, and maybe we might see more of this in terms of the finish and outstripping the creation as the season wears on, when sides come to Anfield. You know, year in, year out, you often see, look at the end of the season, last couple of years, City and Arsenal have both massively outscored their XG. But I think part of the reason why is you get into a game state situation where finishing just becomes less pressure, so it becomes easier.
Yeah, but I think finishing, generally speaking, is kind of like more under the spotlight when you're in a game like this, same against Brentford, same against Nottingham Forest. When you're against that kind of low block opposition and you're creating these low quality chances, you're really reliant more than usual, I think, on the ability of your forwards to actually convert. Because in other games, you just got a bit more space to deal with. You maybe have a few more transitions and things like that. Whereas in these games, really important to get a lead, and you usually get that lead by someone just finishing a chance that you didn't really expect, and maybe Salah is that. It is a good finish, to be fair. It's the roof of the net, I think, with the finish.
It's the roof of the net ripple.
Yeah, and Gakpo, to be fair, which one's Gakpo on this?
That's 3-0 and 4-0.
Well, Gakpo scores a header. I mean, I know headers are generally...
4-0. It's quite a valuable header. By the standards of a header, it's quite a valuable header, so 0.25 approximately.
Yeah, but when you think about it, if you watch the chance, Trent's delivery basically puts the ball in the net on its own.
Yeah.
You know, it's a brilliant quality chance, but it's a great header as well, so I think finishing's important in these low block games as well, getting it.
Yep. little bit on the past network, starting 11. I'm going to show the starting 11. I'm just going to show you the first half quick afterwards because they're very similar. The reason why I wanted to show both was just the detail that Diaz just pulls to the left. I know he moves to the left as the game wears on, so you would expect that in the average network, but no, first half when he was at least theoretically centre forward for Liverpool, him and Gakpo very, very close together. I think what you can see here is a neat little delineation really, where I feel as though Liverpool play down the right in this game with 5 and play down the left with 4, and Van Dijk's almost in the middle going both ways on his own. And I think that's something which Ipswich in the end just couldn't live with down that right-hand side in particular. You've got to deal with Konate, deal with Gravenberch, deal with Trent Alexander-Arnold, deal with Szoboszlai and deal with Salah. And it just felt to me as though they were all interchanging, they were all working in unison. I just thought they were absolutely electric, that quintet on that right-hand side, with the ball, without the ball, movement. I thought they were absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I thought they were very, very dangerous. I think Szoboszlai gets a goal, does he? Or was that
he scores
the left foot.
Yeah. Scores the opener, gets a goal and assist.
Yeah, so Szoboszlai's dangerous and things. And Trent, I thought Trent was very good in the game as well. Trent's cross, as I just mentioned there, was brilliant. But this is what I found though, I think against these low block sides, just using the wide areas a little bit more than maybe in previous years. Putting these crosses, and I've just wrote a piece on that today on my Substack, where we're kind of working these, manipulating the situations to put these crosses in. And generally crosses are low value, but the crosses Liverpool are putting in, like the Gakpo one to the back stick, Salah puts some into the back stick, Trent's one to Gakpo's header. I think that's why Gakpo's thriving lately, because we're reliant on his crossing a bit more. And then when it comes to getting on the end of crosses, he's 6'4".
Yeah.
So he, when it comes to facing these low block sides, Gakpo's proven to be quite useful.
Absolutely, off that left-hand side. It's just the shot map for Liverpool. Just wanted to show that Liverpool scoring the 2 most valuable opportunities they get. Also, slap bang around the 6-yard box as well. Worth pointing that out as it wears on there. Szoboszlai, you can see it on the edge, that hexagon there, as he comes on and meets the ball, drills it into the back of the net. Just want to show the pressures because we talked about them earlier on. Liverpool's just all in the Ipswich half, not with a ton of rhyme or reason really. Just that Liverpool are giving Ipswich a hard time and making it so difficult for them to get out. Ipswich's are the absolute opposite, and I talked about that channel. I think you get to see the inverse of Liverpool's excellence there. That's where Ipswich feel as though they need to make the game a contest in that area, Josh, because that's where Liverpool are doing so much of the business, looking after and moving the ball.
Yeah, well that stems from Liverpool really, doesn't it? I'm not sure if that would have been a plan from Ipswich perspective really. I mean, if the ball's just always there, and that's where Liverpool's most dangerous players are, that's where Ipswich are going to put pressure on, but it didn't work.
It didn't. Listen, just wanted to, we sometimes check in here on what's happening elsewhere. This was Arsenal's race map against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Arsenal win this one. They win the game, obviously, is what I mean. But we've talked in previous weeks a little bit that Arsenal are just leaving themselves into a toss of a coin situation. Now, I accept here it's around 40 minutes, so after that 40-minute jump is when the Arsenal player gets sent off. So they've got to play an extended period with 10 men. But this is back to the thing about, are Arsenal just leaving themselves at times too close to a coin toss? The match ends up, according to the stats bomb theory, with the way the chances spread. It's almost like all 3 possible outcomes are of even possibility there. I think that it's become a bit of a funny weekend for Arsenal. They'll be delighted that they've got the points, and they have to play, as I say, an extended period there when they are up against 11 when they've only got 10. But you just sort of feel, and I thought the same thing earlier in the season when they went down to 10 against Bournemouth, you're half an hour in, and have you created enough against the side? Now at the minute we all rate Bournemouth, and we're going to come on and talk about that in a minute or two, but have you created enough half an hour in? And this is another instance really where they ended up putting themselves under a fair bit of pressure, being under 0.5 expected goals after 40 minutes.
Well, after 90 minutes, they're on, what's that, 0.75 expected goals. I'm pretty sure Liverpool haven't posted that low in any game all season. I would guess at least. And if you look at the probabilities there on that viz, for the home side, for Wolves to have a 36% chance of winning based on the shots that they've created, and Arsenal to have a 32% chance, that is literally the definition of a coin flip, and it's the kind of coin flip that Liverpool have completely avoided really all season for the most part. Liverpool are not engaging in games like that where kind of you have a go, we have a go, same quality shots from similar locations. Liverpool are getting it, well out of doubt, really, with the performances, and that's what's bringing the results home a little bit. This is why I think Liverpool are going to be fine. This is why I think Arsenal might drop more points, because there's just the gap between the sides is just bigger.
We're going to see more of that in a minute or two. We're also going to talk a lot about Bournemouth with that game coming up on the horizon. It's absolutely enormous now. for reasons that do not even pass comprehension, someone decided that Bournemouth versus Liverpool will be a 3 p.m. kickoff on a Saturday. That means they're very difficult to watch in this country. Just to point out that this show is sponsored and brought to you by NordVPN, nordvpn.com/TAW, and one of the things that VPNs offer is the ability to watch television from other countries. That may or may not be useful information at this point in time. If you sign up with the Anfield Wrap, you get an extended period of time free. You'll be able to see it all on there as well. You get your internet security across 10 different devices covered to your heart's content. So that's very possible as well. And as I said before, it does mean that, for instance, when you're abroad, you can keep on top of things like the traitors. I believe Love Island is back at the moment. I'm a 44-year-old man, so it's not that relevant to me. But people should enjoy what they enjoy. This is not to pour scorn on anyone or anything. So if you're into that sort of thing, or you plan to go away during this dismal weather, but you want to be able to keep on top of absolutely everything that is going on over in the UK, you can use NordVPN for that as well. As I said, if you are going to go away, it allows you to trust your internet security when you're going into places that you might not be able to control. And as I said before, it does allow you to watch television from other countries, and that might be something that you're considering doing in the near future as well. So it is nordvpn.com/TAW for all of that and for anything else that you might need. And as I say, there's all sorts of other offers in there if you sign up with us, so please do contemplate doing that. This is The Trend. It's Neil Atkinson with Josh Williams. We do this thing now where, because we're going to go and change subjects, we take a little bit of a break, and it goes something like this.
A VPN, short for Virtual Private Network, is a cybersecurity tool for privacy and security. When you connect to it, a VPN creates a secure tunnel and secures data traveling between you and the VPN server. Encryption scrambles data, so to anyone outside the encrypted tunnel, the information looks like gibberish, meaning no snoops can sneak a peek at your online activity. NordVPN ensures that you can browse safely and privately in just a few clicks.
So we're back, and we're going to be looking ahead to the game against Bournemouth. It's a massive game. Let's be clear, Josh, you and I, we've been talking about them. I'm actually going to go all the way back to the November international break of last season when pulling some data, because that's approximately how long they've been exceptionally exciting for. They're a football team, I think, who are great to watch. I think they've got a lot of good players, a real commitment to what it is that the manager's trying to do, and what the manager's trying to do, I think, is really ambitious, and I think he's worthy of such credit. Yeah,
I think he's brilliant. I think the team's brilliant as well, full of energy, full of courage as well, very brave side. Yeah. Going back to that game that we played, I don't know if you're going to touch on it now, but going back to the Liverpool 3-0 at Anfield, they were still putting us right under everything, under the cosh, mate, at like 18 minutes gone.
But he said recently, I wasn't going to highlight that game, but he said recently that when they went in 1-0 down against Chelsea and they weren't playing very well, and he came afterwards, he said, what did you say to them? He said, we may as well lose as being us. And I think that game against Liverpool, I think they're 3-0 down at half-time, and I almost get the impression, his idea is, we may as well play our football. And that's what I've got so much respect for, really, is that there is this sort of feeling with them where, firstly, they're not going to stop, but also, secondly, he's drilled into them this idea of, no, this is how my team, us, all together, this is how we do things. So we may as well just keep doing it that way, because that's who we are. I mean, if we're going to lose, let's lose being us.
But the thing is, usually when a manager comes out with a line like that, it's usually a very naive coach, I find. Postecoglou, for example, comes to mind with Spurs. We've just been talking about that on the weekend show. But Iraola's game is very practical, I think. Yeah. It's very streetwise, while also being proactive and offensive and attack-minded and all that stuff. And they've kind of evolved to be a bit kind of my second team this season. I think they've been, every time I watch them, they're brilliant. I'm a big fan of many of the players. You just asked me before we came in, who was your favourite Bournemouth player.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to think about it. There's 5 or 6, mate, that I'm a big fan of, big fan of what they're doing. And this is I think there was a few weeks ago, we did a weekend show with John, and I remember saying at the time, just know who were third in the table for expected points. And it was Bournemouth at the time. And they've since gone on and battered Newcastle, battered Forest, top side. Well,
here's the race map for the game against Forest. To get themselves ahead in the game, it's worth saying the second goal probably kills it from Forest's point of view. I think that you see that sort of race chart from time to time, and we also know the sort of side that Forest are. Forest aren't likely to be overturning 2-0 deficits away from home. I'd say they're not likely to be doing that at home either, but they're not likely to be overturning 2-0 deficits away from home. And it does feel like one of those games where when that second goal's gone in, both sides have just accepted the reality of the way the match is going to go.
Yeah, it was interesting to see Forest go behind, actually.
Yeah.
I think they've taken the lead 17 or 18 times this season, so once that happened, I didn't have much faith, to be fair, but I didn't think Bournemouth would go and score 5. Generally speaking as well, they're actually underperforming their expected goals still.
Well, we're going to come on to that in a minute.
Right.
It's now running a little bit closer, but yeah, we'll see that in a minute or two, the way we're just going. But yeah, the point about Bournemouth is they're neither running hot nor cold.
No, it's not a fluke, it's where they are, they're just a good side.
Not a fluke. You mentioned before, who's your favourite Bournemouth player? I love Ryan Christie. I think Hoyson, I said on a show last week, Liverpool should be all over him, having a real eye on his progress and what he's about. That's just a really nice pass network. I mean, it's everyone's doing what they should be doing. Ouattara ends up getting a hat-trick over the course of the game. Semenyo playing off the left because Brooks is off the right. Ouattara's not a centre forward. Kluivert's up there helping out as well. You got Lewis Cook at right back. He's not really a right back, but he's pulled over there because this is a side that at the minute he's probably only got 12 players, maybe 13, who he would like to have involved in games, and yet they're playing as they're playing. But also, again, I'll keep saying it, everyone's just bought into what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's quite a representative pass map, to be fair, because you can see based on the bubble size that every player is getting roughly the same number of touches. It's quite a team thing, and you've got a front four there, which kind of sums up Herrera's approach. Very offensive, the willing to pressure really high and the good with the pressing as well. It's quite flexible, isn't it? It's quite versatile.
Loads of traps.
But the thing is, it's not fixed in one way. This is how we do it. It's very depending on where the ball is, depending on where your man is. He puts a lot of trust in his players, I find. In certain situations when they're attacking or even pressing, it's very you do what you think is best in the moments within a certain context, if you get what I mean, and it just works for them.
It's long-term excellence, I think is the key point here. So I want to just sort of pull the next slide in. This is the XG difference inclusive from that November international break all the way back in 22-23, all the way through to now. You can see that the fourth best performer in there alongside Chelsea. They are 0.40 XG difference. So that is, I know that this is going out for free, so that is all your chances created, minus, including penalties, minus all your chances conceded, including penalties, where you are game by game. The average for Bournemouth is 0.4 expected goals. If you look at that there, that groups them with Chelsea, not as good as Manchester City, Arsenal or Liverpool over the period, but then you wouldn't expect that, but markedly better than Everton, Brentford, Manchester United, Brighton and Hove Albion, Aston Villa, who qualified for the Champions League, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Nottingham Forest, Tottenham Hotspur over the same period, and Newcastle United around that sort of level. So that's where they've been, and that tells you the story that this is not a flash in the pan. I think this is a really important point, Josh, is that whatever happens on Saturday, this is just a really good side. They've been a really good side for a long period of time, and I think that is worthy of huge respect. Yeah,
definitely. We spoke about coin flips in the first part. I think going back to that viz, I think it's interesting because the teams towards the bottom end in red are the teams that have got the coin weighted in their favour. The teams at the top end in the blue are the teams that have got the coin weighted against them, and the teams bang in the middle.
They're the coin flip teams week in, week out.
Yeah, literally just flipping a coin, and you wouldn't expect Bournemouth with the players that they've got to be between Chelsea and Manchester City. And that sums up the job that the manager's doing and how the team are operating as a unit.
So with the challenge that's coming for Liverpool, then the next thing I did was I pulled that down and said, all right, what's happening in home games? In home games, you can see that then they moved themselves to sixth, which I think is quite interesting. 0.59 difference game by game, so better. Liverpool 1.62 lead in that challenge all the way down to the bottom there. Then I went, all right, let's just look over the same period of time against sides that have played European football. So this is only the games including sides that have played European football. So on the whole, Bournemouth there, quite mid-table. Liverpool performing the best. Bournemouth a little bit in the negative, so they are finding that a little bit tricky. About the same though as Chelsea. Not that much different to Newcastle, but markedly better than West Ham United, Manchester United, Aston Villa, Brighton and Tottenham in those games as well. And then I said, all right, let's have a little look at that at home. And you see at home, then we're back to the XG difference actually being positive for Bournemouth for the home games when they are playing teams who are in Europe. So on that one, they're 0.49. Liverpool is still around 1.6 when they're playing European sides. But if that's what you're doing across a year and a half against England's European representatives, Josh, that is an exceptional level to be at if you're a side like Bournemouth, who themselves, I don't think they've ever played European football in their history. No. They are in that company and they deserve to be in that company.
Exactly, yeah. It's not a fluke. And going back to the players that they've got again, these are not these are rough diamonds maybe at best. These are not established European players. These are not players who've played in the Champions League or the Europa League or anything like that. These are really clever finds over the course of a good few windows, all a good age, all represent a certain brand of football. We've got a manager in who's going to install that, And this is the product, what we're seeing now, and I think they're this season's overperformers, maybe overachievers.
Massively so, and ABC this season, then going into this season, this is the actually difference inclusive just this season. Liverpool number 1, Arsenal number 2, Bournemouth number 3.
I mean, that's amazing, isn't it?
I mean, what I will point out though, and I do mean this, Liverpool though are streets ahead there. You know, Liverpool at 1.16, Arsenal a little better than Bournemouth at 0.57. Liverpool are actually streets ahead in terms of where this is.
And to be fair, going back seasons, like over the course of the past, like Klopp's tenure and everything, that's a seriously good team that Liverpool are posting there. About what is it, 1.25?
Liverpool are 1.16.
1.16.
1.16.
Yeah, well, that's really healthy, and that's you know, generally going to suggest that you're going to win plenty of games because you've got the coins so weighted in your favour. So Liverpool brilliance, Bournemouth also brilliance, but not as good.
No, it is good, and that's, I think this is where I'm pointing out. So that's it in general. This is the home games. I think this is really interesting. Liverpool there, in terms of home, are actually only third best. Arsenal best performer through that. Liverpool 0.93, Bournemouth 0.67 at home. We're going to their ground this weekend, so they're 0.67 better expected goals difference inclusive so far this season. Liverpool only third best, but you can group I think everyone, Newcastle down there, all as being sort of around the same level in terms of difficulty or difference between them and the opponents when they're playing at home.
Yeah, but it feels like a difficult ground anyway, going back for a few years for Liverpool. It might not be off the top of my head, but it does feel like a kind of ground that can sting you a little bit. It's quite tight, isn't it? And I always go back to that one with Klopp a few years back where we ended up losing 4-3. So it's going to be a tricky game for sure, like, and you can see that based on the numbers.
Do you want to see this one? Away games, XG difference. Bournemouth second best.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Liverpool best by a mile.
Liverpool again, though, yeah.
1.39 Liverpool expected goals difference in away games this season. Bournemouth second best at 0.48. You know, again showing, and I think this is dead interesting for the Bournemouth approach. It almost doesn't matter where, because we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to get about you. And I think that's something which all these other sides, this is back to, we lose our own, the way we play, we lose the way we choose to lose. That attitude of, we play our way, we're going to play our way, and we'll play our way in your ground, we'll play our way in our ground, they can create another ground, we'll play our way there. And I think it's dead interesting that they're outperforming there, not by miles, but they're outperforming there, Manchester City, Arsenal, Newcastle so far this season, in terms of just doing that when they're going away from home. But the Reds are absolutely well out there. It's worth saying though, Liverpool have arguably played poorer sides away than they have at home, so I think that skews that a little bit.
Yeah, but I think in a lot of games when Liverpool is taking the lead, I think there's a certain level of we'll just shut up shop here. But I think with Bournemouth, if Liverpool take a lead, whatever the score is, to be honest, after 70 minutes, you're not going to be safe at any point in this game. I think they have the quality, the stadium, the playing style to turn it into a bit of a whirlwind out of nowhere. So I think Liverpool will have to be on the toes for 90 minutes here.
Absolutely agree with you. Listen, next thing along the line is just to sort of point out the average age, 25.7 versus the average age for the league, which is 26.8. We talked about average ages before. There's a lot of big players there who are under 23 who are getting a fair bit of time on the pitch for them. You've got Kerkez, who's been much discussed, Huijsen, Zabiani in there as well, who is still younger than I thought he was at the age of 23. Then there are some players I think who are in their peak years there. You know, you've some of the lads that they've lost. You've got Semenyo, who's 25, Tavernier, Kluivert, Adams in there as well. David Brooks, 27, but obviously he's had the oddity of the career given the terrible illness. You've got Lewis Cock, who's still only 28, feels like the old man of the sea in this side. Ryan Christie's 30, and it feels like Cook and Christie are really important to this team in a number of different ways, you suspect culturally as well. But all of that said, you know, it is still a side that is built on these young legs. Yeah.
As I said, full of vitality, and it's a bit like a Red Bull side, really, when you think about it. Like a typical Red Bull team, full of energy, very vertical. Lots of fast players in there you can run them behind as well. Yeah,
is the shot map for the season so far? So they now are just beginning to get, for a long period they've been underperforming expected goals. They still are. Expected is 36.9, they've scored 35, so it's now only a slight underperformance, and the weekend skews that because they whacked in 1.7 at cumulative XG but scored 5. So before this weekend it was a marked underperformance, but now it's about sort of coming back in. That's that. The other way, you know, they've expected to have conceded 28.3, they've conceded 25. That's not running hot, that's just football. You know, there's always going to be variance, nothing's ever perfect, even at this stage of the season, and they'll be happy enough with that. And again, it shows everything they're doing is sustainable.
Yeah, I think in attack, that explains why maybe they're not a little bit higher in the table, to be fair. Because to still be underperforming, despite scoring 9 across your past 2 games against Newcastle. That's insane to still be underperforming your expected goals. So that suggests that before that, in a lot of games, they've deserved goals and they haven't came or whatever. I always remember a game against Chelsea. I think they lost at home. They were brilliant in that game. I think they lost it 1-0 or something like that, 2-1 maybe. But really good side, should be a little bit higher. But generally speaking, probably leveling out a little bit now.
Went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. Kluivert and then Nicholas Jackson from nowhere at the end, just to sort of shake it up. Kluivert, this is Kluivert up until the end of November. So the last game that Bournemouth play in November is the 23rd of November. He's expected goals 1.5, number of goals 1, takes a penalty, scores in that period. You get to see the sort of dotted shots there. This is Kluivert since Advent calendars started to get opened. Not actually that much more in terms of expected goals, but in the meantime, obviously banged in the penalties and got himself into the situation where he's on basically 4 from there as that kicked along. There's the game in the gap there is when he scores the 3 pens, but I've just not included that because it's a bit wild. But in this, you get to see ultimately. This is a little bit of overperformance. If there's an area here where maybe someone is beginning to overperform, running a bit hot, it is Kluivert. But all of that said, that doesn't mean he's not dangerous.
No, that was what I was. That was the term I was going to use. I was going to say that is the definition of running hot. Really, I think he's scored a fair few from outside the box.
Yeah, you can see them on there. Yeah.
Yeah, very Coutinho to be fair, and he's got that about him. He's got a good strike on him, but they won't keep going in every week. So I'd like to think as well against Alisson. Hopefully they won't go in, but there's a player in there though.
Oh, he's a serious player.
Yeah.
Really good player. Move forward. Just as this, early in the season, we did something on top scorers. I don't know if you remember, and we were actually talking Nicholas Jackson up. Yeah. And I see he's getting an unbelievable amount of grief from Chelsea supporters over the weekend. So I just wanted to sort of highlight, this is Jackson. Again, up until that November international break, the game immediately afterwards, I was trying to do the same thing with Christmas. So his expected goals was 5.8. His number of goals was 7. You look at that shot map, it's good for a centre forward, and you can see what's getting into the back of the net there, Josh. This is it since the 1st of December until currently. He's 5.2 expected goals, 2 goals. It's still a good shot map. They're just not going in the back of the net for him. And this is the way variance works from time to time. It'll flip. We've seen it flip now, and currently Kluivert feels like a very hot property. Jackson, I would say that still bodes well if he's still getting in the positions consistently and sticking in the back of the net. But the fact of the matter is, as football supporters, that's the sort of stuff that drives you mad.
Exactly, yeah. I ask myself why I'm even doing it, really. Sometimes the ball goes in, is what I would say. That's what I've said quite often on this show. And if it doesn't, try and keep a level ground as to what would you be thinking if everything was normal. I think Nicholas Jackson is a top striker. I think he's dangerous. There's a question mark there with his finishing, but all things normal, I do think they've got a player in there. Yeah. I think Kluivert is a player as well. Sometimes you'll run hot, sometimes you won't. That's football. And that is football. So just a little quick update to illustrate that even further. This is him against the radar over the course of the season. All looks pretty good. Better than the league average, Nicholas Jackson. This is every game. Now we'll do those games in that first batch when he was running hot. Looks great. Really good. 92nd percentile for expected goals. Shot OBV. This is the big one. 98th percentile. Doing really well with that. Dribble and carry is doing really well. XG per shot really good. Well better than the average. Let's move him down to where he is now. And he's still doing really well. He's still getting really high number of shots off. Really good expected goals. Really good open play XG assisted. Touches in the box, great. If anything, touches in the box have improved for Nicholas Jackson, but shot OBV is now down at 0.1. It's 7th percentile from earlier in the season when he was 98th percentile. This is running hot to running cold, but he's still the same footballer, and you can even see it in these radars. Yeah, that's a definition of finishing there. That's really interesting stuff, considering like it's the same player. One period he's converting to a 98th percentile level. Another period it goes down to what was it? It goes down to 7th percentile. 7th percentile, it's the same player. Maybe he doesn't like the cold weather. Could be as simple as that. Maybe things haven't just gone quite well for them, and it's a Chelsea side that on the whole's gone off the boil, and the question is, have the side gone off the boil because someone like Jackson's not taking his chances, or is someone like Jackson not taking his chances because he thinks the side's gone off the boil? And I think there could be a relation to that, or there could just be variance, because the point of all of this, and I hope you've enjoyed this with NordVPN and StatsBomb the Trends, everyone who works in this sector doesn't think this has all the answers. It in fact just gets you asking even more questions. It's been a pleasure to do this one with Josh. It's a pleasure to do all of them with him as well. Jordan for producing. This has been The Trends with NordVPN. See you later on.